on crypto Twitter. We got an awesome episode for you guys today. Plenty to talk about, plenty to look back at. But with all our incredible subscribers, do me a quick favor, smash that like button, make us look good for the YouTube algo. Now, I want to take a second to thank our sponsor, Phemex, one of the only non-KYC derivatives exchanges left in crypto. So click the link in the description below to get up to $6,000 in sign-up bonus. Now, the last thing I'll say before we get started here is that nothing we say on the Tools of the Trade live stream is meant to be considered financial advice. We are not financial advisors, and this information is for educational purposes only. All right, so now that I'm done chilling, Trip, how's it going, my man?
It's good. It's good to be back for another episode. Consistency is key. No, it's good. It's fun. Big day tomorrow, CPI. A couple more data points later in the week. I think everyone is kind of anxious to see what happens. At least in traditional markets, as we've seen, like kind of S&P and NASDAQ not really trade at all. I mean, crypto
just chopping around.
Yeah, it's a bunch of liquidity games. But this is an important one, as we know, just given kind of what Jerome had said recently around their thoughts on inflation and going into the June meeting. Right, this more is going to possibly set the tone for, is there another base or are they done? Right, I personally think like this hiking cycle is nearing the end, right? And so, what this print is going to be is always just like a toss up for me. I don't even try to guess it, but I would say there's risk to the upside more if the print is lower on short positioning, particularly in crypto, given how liquidity looks. So another exciting time, the world we live in of just trading macro data points, which I think are actually getting much less relevant. If you just look at how
the volatility has been since the print.
Yeah, how last year things trade, people anticipating these things, right? The more that something's talked about, the less relevant it's maybe going to be. And so FOMC, CPI, all these things, once they pass, it's still like very much a situation where I think what the traditional assets and risk assets are doing is looking ahead, being like, well, they're going to eventually pivot or pause, right? Normalcy is something that like I think we all have to kind of accept, right? Inflation is going to be high for an extended period of time. How that translates into the economy and consumers and whatnot is not necessarily going to work the same in markets. I mean, if you looked at COVID, and the market went straight up, and people were in dire situations at one point before the money, we printed a bunch of money. So I'm kind of secretly bullish, given
you said the word
near term, at least for kind of what we talked about off stream, and we'll talk about this is like, give me a flush and like squeeze it hard, and then that's probably another short opportunity. But like vicious moves like that are what we kind of live for as traders and trying to figure out who's offsides. And so excited to talk about it.
So let's hop right in, ISO. Let's take a look at like DXY and S&P, just to kind of give an overview how we've just been mostly chopping around, NASDAQ, etc. And then we'll kind of get into BTC and ETH and some alternative shitcoins, as we like to call them, on our lovely stream.
Yeah, hold on one second. I just have to get something here. All right, so let me pull these up. I just got turned upside down for a little bit. What do you guys want to look at first? The traditional assets?
Yeah, let's look at DXY. Just kind of give an overview based on last week's FOMC and NFP, how that kind of impacted things. Looking at it from like a higher time frame overview.
Okay, yeah. So I think I said last time, basically, we're talking about something that's really not done that much for now. Can you see it?
Yep.
26 days. Okay, 130 basis point range, basically. And all we do is talk about this. And so, it's like it's kind of the same as like the other markets. Like people want this to go down, right?
They need it to go down.
People want the market to go down, right? I can see the desire for it. And it's like, we just went down a lot. Okay. Now we're just continually kind of grinding up and people are in disbelief of it. What is going to make this, go up at this point? It's another 25 basis points really going to do it. Is that going to make like the dollar extremely bullish? I mean, again, we talked about you have to trade above like 103 basically to kind of like consider
Get a
that. Like,
trend going.
yeah. And so we're doing this, right? So if there's no real decisive direction, I don't have something that where I'm going to take like a view of like, yeah, it's breaking out or breaking down. Like if this starts breaking down, it's going to 99, right? And then that's going
Yep.
to be good for risk. If this starts breaking up, and we're going to push towards 103, then that's probably going to give you a pullback in risk assets and crypto. And maybe you're going to get those levels we talked about, BTC and ETH last week. I feel like we've been
Yep.
talking about the same levels for a month. And so, we're beating the dead horse around the dollar, and it's like, okay, this is what we've dealt with for
Yep.
over 3 weeks. If we take a look at traditional like markets, like let's just go look at the ES chart. Like, yeah, people want this to go down, but like all right, so April 18th to now, like, okay, 4180 to 4070. This
Yep.
is what we've done. I will say the more you touch this resistance, the more likely it is that you're probably going to break it. I mean, right?
Yep. Rule of
That's
fives, right?
yeah. And so we haven't really done that much here. And like, this is kind of the nature of markets itself. Like, you could look at the index and say like it's choppy, but like I think if you look at some individual stocks, like anything that's AI related or like tech earnings have really not been that bad. I think that surprised a lot of people in the sense of like, this doesn't scream recession for me. Also, this is maybe the most telegraphed recession I've ever heard of. So like, is it going to happen? Again, I don't know, but like what did you say? The least likely outcome is
Is the most entertaining outcome is always
yeah. So, so we'll look at the NASDAQ over here and like, is this like bearish?
No, it's just
Not
grinding
really.
up, right? It's just
Yeah, it's
chopping or
grinding up.
grinding.
Like, so can it go to 13.7? Yes. Can it, come down, retest 12.6, I guess? Sure. But I don't see like a lot of just like negative things that are just going to like make the market nuke outside of some like geopolitical factor that could come into play, that's just, more
That's a
black
fair point,
swan.
for sure.
And so, you know, um, crypto though is kind of like in its own little world. Like, in my opinion, it doesn't necessarily really trade with these.
Yeah, it
Um,
hasn't for a minute, right? Like the gold narrative kind of proliferated last couple of weeks. But other than that, we really haven't seen much correlation at
yeah,
all.
goes up against ES, goes down. Goes up against ES, goes down. And like, maybe that's this. There just doesn't seem to be a huge rhyme or reason to a correlation trade for me. I would say more so, I guess you could look at it when the dollar moves, but again, we're talking about a pretty small range in the dollar that like isn't really doing much,
Indicative of like actually trending, like
yeah,
having that correlation one way or another.
right, with BTC. Like, I mean, what's the reality of the situation here? It's like 29.5, call this your deviation to what? 20.
26, 27.
Yeah. So like, is it appropriate to be super bearish here with 11 billion in shorts on BTC?
Probably not, right?
Not, no, like, to me, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, we lost the 50-day moving average, which, is not the best, but we've seen fake outs in that regard. But I don't know. I think, there's the ability for BTC to flush like into this area down here,
Yep.
which we kind of talked about. You'll sweep this, everyone will get really bearish.
You
And you're
broke
going to
market
say, oh,
structure. It's going to 22,
yeah,
whatever.
go to 25, and then watch it be right back up at 28.8.
Yep.
And everyone's like, oh, and that's, you're still ranging, right? So ETH is a little bit of a different story for me, just because this isn't like so much of a range.
More like a slow grind up, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then if you look at like kind of the ETH BTC chart, I don't know. I've just kind of been playing with this trend line, but like, okay, I guess if you start breaking down here, it's going to get really ugly. But I think if you start breaking above here,
Keeps the
it's
better
going to get
long,
pretty interesting.
for sure.
Yeah. And so, I don't know. Those are kind of just like the little things I'm watching right now, and my ideas about like what people think, and we can look at some of the liquidity, because that's always a fun one.
I should
So
pull
we'll just
that up. I'm gonna go do a little
yeah
BTC overview here, right? So last week we talked about. Let's go back to 4 hour. Last week we talked about what it was like the Monday high or the Monday open and the Monday high were untouched at like 29.3 ish. Call it right. See where that was. Right around. Where was that? Right here. Oh, no, it was here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, right here. Okay. So you had like the Monday open and the Monday high right there. I think we were around this 28.5 area. We came up, we swept it, came back down, made a higher low, swept it again, higher low. And we had that final move to 29.8, which was like basically the entire liquidity profile, right? Like we ran every single short lick that was up there. And like lo and
yeah
behold, if we we want to mark out this range, we came close to the range high, right? So if I look at it from this perspective, I see a lot of similarities with this week as well. So again, that was your Monday open, Monday high, and then what did we have here just the other day? Where's that? Right, Monday open, Monday high. So once again, I feel like this week is setting up, especially the fact that we have 10, 11 bill in shorts. Whether we chop around here, whether we start grinding up, or we make one more sweep of the low, I think either way, if you're positioned right now going into CPI, it's probably a poor move just because I feel like better entries await you. If you're not positioned short from high or long for lower, whatever. Point being is that I can easily see where we kind of keep chopping, grinding into CPI. We get the first move, maybe a fake out up, second move, fake out down, and then we literally do the same thing that we did here, right? So the fact that the Monday open and the Monday high are untouched, and I guess this is our Monday low for right now. I can see us going into tomorrow, sweeping the Monday low. Where is that? 27.3, call it. Coming back up to it. So maybe even get that 26.9 area or 26 area. Maybe it's just 27, right? So either way, I
yeah.
think if you're just
So
waiting.
there's like there's a 100x lick at 27.1, and then you have 350x's clustered for
Okay.
26.9.
So let's say you get something like this, quick pop, and then like you're trending towards at least the Monday open, the Monday high. I think we have some liquidity pockets up at 28.8 that Trip can share in just a second. But that's kind of the overview for BTC, right? Like we've been in this range. If you zoom out for a second, like we've really just been in this range for 2.5 months now. Yeah, this is deviation, but we've really been trading in this area from that beautiful TWAP walk up and nuke for the last several days, right? Over a week now. So point being is like we're in this range. And I think you just, SC likes to say ping pong till you're wrong. We're close to the range low. It's likely we're going to go back to the range high and vice versa, ad infinitum. I think this is probably the biggest pain trade. It's not necessarily going to, 30s or below 26s. I really think the pain trade right now is just terrible, painful, generic chop, at least until June. And then potentially from there, you might see like an actual direction get picked in terms of which way we're going. But, if as long as we're between 30K and 27.2, I just believe it's a mean reverting play, and you should really be looking for mean reversion. So, buy support, sell resistance, keep it simple. So show us the licks now, Trip. Let's take a peek at that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that range, like you haven't had that many touches on the bottom and the top,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So like if you go back and look at last year when we did some of those ranges that were like just crushing people, there was a lot more interaction around the highs and lows, like which is noticeable support and resistance.
Yep.
And all right, 4 or 5 times at support, like you could short a breakdown, or you're going to buy a breakout potentially, but I don't know. It can persist for a lot longer than people expect. So
And people want, right? The market can be irrational longer than you can stay sane or solvent or both.
Yeah. So BTC. So why are we talking about sweeping that area and going into 26.8? Because so you have 10.73 billion in shorts on Bitcoin right now. So you have 319 shorts to 126 longs. Nearest liquidity, I mean, see these are kind of your longs here. So
You just ran the shorts too that came in at the lows.
yeah,
No.
27.7 is where you just took some. People came in. I think if you're gonna go here to 27.5, you're probably going to take out this 27.1, and that could just easily go into this
Cascade
26.
into 27 or below.
Yeah. And then what that does to the ratio is it's probably going to make it so this is even more favorable for a squeeze on the short side
Yep.
where there's less longs.
Yep.
And this will, maybe go to like, I don't know, 12, 13 billion potentially. Then you're in an instance where you just swept it, you're at the range low, and you're pretty heavy on the short side. Like that's a really good long setup in my opinion.
Because you're
In
at
terms of like,
support, liquidity is to the upside, positioning is offsides, and when you can't, unless the support actually breaks down, it's much more beneficial to take a counter trade or counter trend trade and trade long because you're assuming, yes, support's been tapped however many times, but liquidity positioning tells us that everyone's net short. And obviously, if support doesn't break, how do short positions unwind? Well, they puke by buying their position back.
yeah, and I think you just had mentioned that futures are almost in backwardation, which
Yes, that's
is
actually super
actually
interesting.
like I don't know, like quarterlies or whatever it is. When that stuff
Yeah.
happens, it's very bearish sentiment,
So
which like,
briefly, just like the BXBT is the index, XBT is the perp. So this is basically your index versus your perp. And then these two are the futures. This is June futes and these are September futes. If you notice, June's not entirely at parity with the perps, but I've seen September as high as $500-$600 higher than what the index or the perp was trading at. So the fact that prices have come down and are nearly in backwardation tells me that there is an opportunity for a long setup coming very closely. And if I had to gun to my head, what are my top two indicators for buying bottoms or selling tops? It's when futures are in the backwardation. They're basically trading. So in XBT USD M23, just trading below XBT USD by a wide margin, and it could even be at parity. This usually represents some sort of mispricing in the market, and the market likes to correct mispricings very swiftly. But yeah, continue.
yeah, I haven't really looked at funding, but sometimes that can also be indication that funding on BTC is negative or not favoring the longs.
Yep.
So or favoring the longs, not the shorts.
Yep.
Okay, so and I've actually, this helped a lot last week when we identified those liquidity pockets. We also saw it at 27.5. I mean, we'll see if it holds, but right now, what we're looking at, price is what, 27.6, somewhere around there.
Yep.
So this is about right for a CPI setup. Is like
Darth Maul both
here,
ways.
27.8 is a near term like
Liquidity target.
liquidity pocket, and then 27.2, right? I think if you get this, you will be going to like 28.3, like right,
Your
and then you
weekly
hit this
open
gap.
essentially, and maybe you gap up into
Yeah.
28.4.
If you hit this 27.2, that's going to give you that area we just talked about, like sweeping 27 into that liquidity we just spoke about. 20, maybe it's 26.9 you get, or 26.8.
You get the double bottom. I can see that actually. That seems so right because everyone's looking for lower than 26.9. They're looking for that 26.5 sweep, and then all of a sudden, we just get this double bottom pattern. Everyone just gets fucked.
Right, because you have a little bit of a gap here before you really start to push into the 26.4.
Yep.
And that's the same up here with like the higher numbers we looked at, 28.8, which are, a lot of people are targeting that, but maybe it's just this zone that you're playing with.
It could be a tighter range. And I think people playing or swinging for the fences are usually going to round trip a lot of their profits. Again, guys, this is a PvP market. No new money's coming in. So, you can't really swing for the fences here. You really got to be kind of very selective with how you enter and exit trades, especially once you get into a winning trade. Be sure to lock in those profits because, mean reversion round trip is not a meme in this environment.
Yeah. So then if we look at, let's take a look at the 7-day, which is probably going to give us some different zones. I would imagine probably higher levels. I zoomed in so you guys can see it. So basically, the bright spots here, I mean, all the way from like 27.2, that area we just talked about.
Yep.
But like, you can come all the way down here, right?
Yep.
Like it's that's the thing where people, like, when you're looking at this stuff, you have to have like an open
mind.
mind to where, and you try to identify it on a lower time frame around that stuff where you can see like maybe we're putting a bottom in here, but like 29.9, that's pretty bright up there. Like,
That's the top of your range high from this move we had from last week, right, or 2 weeks ago.
yeah, so you tap some up here, people probably get bullish, and then I'm sure you'd be filling in these longs down here, and that's the range you just basically talked about.
Yep.
So like, I don't rule this out because I'm pretty sure like the last time we ran pretty hard was what? Yeah, it was like up here. Was this the 29.9 or 29.8?
29.8, yeah.
7, whatever it was. Yeah, and then we came down, and we had talked about like an area of interest basically here, which look, it ran all the way through,
Yep.
right? So pairing this up with the actual liquidation levels is probably the best approach, and then I like to use fibs, whether it's making, looking at retraces back up or back down on BTC. I mean, we can look at ETH too, so people have a sense of where those liquidity pockets sit.
We got a quick question. Aren't we forming a 12-hour head and shoulders pattern on BTC? So my friend Mohammed, just if we take a quick sec here and we look at, where has price been for the last 3 months, we're in a range. So to, start drawing random patterns, is this a head and shoulder with a right weird shoulder with a neckline? I think it's very disingenuous to start drawing chart patterns when we've just clearly been in a range. You also have to have add context into the mix, and like this range can break up or down. It might seem bearish at first, but when you zoom out and you say, okay, well, we broke out of a 9-month range and now we're consolidating above. To me, that's I am kind of bearish, but like at the same time, I'm very open-minded to flip bias on the flip of a dime, just because can this eventually just go like this all summer long and then do something crazy? Absolutely. Bitcoin's known to do that. So to, kind of harp on, is this a 12-hour head and shoulders pattern? I think you got to take a look at the context more and kind of assess. If we're in a range, don't be drawing your symmetrical triangles, pennants, this and that, because the context is more important than the formation itself. But yeah, continue, Drip.
Way I'm looking at it is if you sweep 27 and you go into that liquidity, it's probably an interesting long. And if you sweep 1800 on ETH and you go into, this like high 1700s,
Yeah,
right?
Key June.
Yeah, and that's moved up, which you can probably touch more on the cloud. But yeah, here's the ETH. You can see the chart.
Yep.
Yeah, so it used to be 1757 down here.
Yep.
Right? And now this is moving up. Price is like kind of like, can it come down here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So sweep 1800. Maybe you're not going to get 1757. Maybe you get 1770 or 1780.
1784 or 85. Yeah.
Right. That is like a pretty attractive long for like if you're bullish on ETH. And I mean, if you look at ETH BTC, it's also in an interesting spot. Like the Kijun is much lower on BTC.
Yep. ETH's had more time to kind of catch up, so I'll touch upon that real quick, right? So when it comes to Ichimoku, right, and you guys know this is my favorite indicator, this kind of bracketing right here, where price is in between the Tenkin, which is the blue line, and the Kijun, the yellow line, that bracketing inside there is just consolidation, right? So when you have a strong move to the upside like we did here at 2100, the Tenkin and the Kijun kind of were left out, right? So like we're far away from the mean. So mean reversion from 2100 was 1752 for the longest period of time. Now, as price trends and starts consolidating within a certain area, right? So it's kind of like, let's take the bullish approach, right? Like we're SR flipping this resistance, turn support, and the fact that we're consolidating within this TK tells me that, all the indicators have now had time to catch up to price. And that actually leans pretty bullish, just when I'm looking at it right here with a fresh pair of eyes. So, the fact that the Kijun comes up to 1802 in about 2.5 hours leading into CPI, if we swept this low 1810 and we got if you got an 1800 entry right here, right on this tap, potentially down here, but although I don't really see a cause for it, this to me is as clear a setup as any that I'd almost kind of take the long there with a stop below. Let's see if you got the 1800 entry. Let's just pretend here. 1800.
I would take like a 1790. Not get greedy. I think it will run 1800.
I think you can. I'd be even more conservative. So like this low right here at 1763. So I'd put it like 1759. Call it right. And like if you are taking the stance that we're at least going to go back to range highs of like 1900 something, this is a pretty decent setup on its own. But like maybe you're even more bullish. You're going to swing long. Maybe you're going for like the deviation high at 2K. It starts to turn into an interesting setup. So again, we talked about ETH BTC a couple of times the last several streams, and we've been in this giant 2-year range, and now we're finally below range low. But when I look at it objectively, we had the bottom, we had this top put in, and now we're holding this support as kind of the higher low. You draw some diagonals like Trip mentioned earlier. As soon as you start getting above this 7 level, that gives you cause to run, right? And the fact that we put in the low, here's the higher low near the open of the 3 inside up, and now we're just slowly grinding up. I mean, it's not pretty price action by any stretch of the imagination, but at the same token, ETH is the better long in my opinion here. So going into CPI tomorrow, now that I'm kind of talking out loud, it makes a lot of sense that if we do get that flush down on ETH, we come into that 1800 level. I think that's probably going to be, again, if you just sweep this low, the Monday low, right? We're going to call it that. If you sweep this low, and then maybe you wait for it to trade back up slightly, but anything around here is probably going to be a good move to 1900s, in my humble opinion. But yeah, continue, Trip.
Yeah, it's interesting because, BTC did go to that like crazy untapped supply zone that we had talked about, like way up there.
Yep.
So ETH hasn't really. Where'd my ETH chart go? Where was it? Like it did. I guess it did 2017, but if we go on 4 hour, can you guys see the ETH chart?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can sit. I don't know. This is like untapped up here to me. Like this zone never really got hit. So if you were to sweep this,
You're going
and
higher.
go back up here,
Yep.
that would make people that would take people for a ride. That's almost something that I actually can see happening, and mainly just because we're coming into that daily Kijun level that's been moving up.
Yep.
And like I've been watching 1757. I think everyone has that level, but now it's like creeping up a little bit, and ETH BTC is interesting posture in itself. We can look at the ETH 7-day
look back
heat map to see if there's any clues. Oh my god. Well, here you go.
1805.
1805.
There it is.
Yeah,
right
1780.
there.
This is the buy. Like this is the buy on ETH. I'm pretty sure.
Yep. I like that.
This zone. And do you go up here to tap this? I don't know. You got to get above basically 1930 again. You need to start taking them out. But we can look at the liquidity on ETH from a lick standpoint too, just to see. I think there was maybe like 4.5 billion in shorts on ETH. So maybe if you get a flush, similar to like what I was talking about with BTC, I haven't looked at the ratios as much in terms of like what the longs and shorts look like on this. That's loading here. All right, so 288 to 121. Again, I just don't like shorting stuff that has sustained like red delta yeah. like this stuff here.
What's that 25x on the left that's untapped? 1800 or 1803?
All right, so 4.6. This is your sweep. 1809. You 1790 or 50x.
What about the 25x to the far left, right by the yeah? What's that? 18. Yeah, it's 1805. I like that a lot actually.
Yeah, we can drop the granularity to see where if there's any like. I think you get these guys. I think you get these 1790s. Maybe you don't get like because if you hit this, you're probably especially on some of these derivative exchanges, you could pick off a 1790. I think that's kind of my area where I would say like, all right, that's like a really ideal long.
Yeah, so I just kind of drafted a little setup here just as you were talking about it, right? So the Monday low is 1810. We just talked about that lick being 1805. Maybe you get a tighter entry below 18. But, if you're watching this live going into CPI tomorrow, and you see price come down below the Monday low, it sweeps it. So, every trader is different. Some look for a reclaim of the Monday low. Some will just punt it. Maybe it's as simple as you get a sweep to wherever it is. It comes back up. It trades above 1810. Maybe you mark it in and then you set your, stop wherever the low is put in. Let's just pretend it's, 1780. And you get in at 1810. And then you're playing at minimum, in my mind, for the Monday high, right? That we kind of talked about last week, similar setup. And then once you kind of get above 1880s, this is that SSR zone we touched once before we broke down. And then I can see this trading to low 1900s post CPI going into the rest of the week if we kind of get that sweep and reclaim and it's one swift move. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how things play out going into tomorrow.
Yeah, so like this is a less granularity. So your point about that 1804, like if we're dialing in the biggest licks, right? So you take that, you're definitely coming for this 1885, and that's
your Monday high.
Yeah. So
and then they'll lick right above that, right? The purple.
1902, 1906.
No, the big bubble to the left that's on tap still.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, 1935. Yeah, see, I can see that. I can definitely, that kind of fits within that SSR zone.
Right. So, you guys now are seeing us formulate plans in real time. Because I actually wasn't looking at this, but it makes a lot of sense. I just think you're going to get an exhaustion point if they flush it.
Yeah,
and
100%.
How offsides the shorts are can just, around these market movements can be violent squeezes.
Yeah. So Mohammed asked another question. What is the sentiment right now, bullish or bearish? What do you think, Trip? And then I'll give you my take on it.
You mean what? Just gauging Twitter?
Just gauging sentiment for the word sentiment itself.
It's kind of mixed for me. I mean, there's like plenty of bullish people out there. There's plenty of bearish people out there. And you know what? Neither is one. We're ranging. Okay?
We're ranging. So exactly.
I'm bullish because we're near the range lows.
It's so much easier to be bullish at the range lows and bearish at range highs. Whether you're right or wrong, that's always usually the right stance. Oh, wow. That's negative on Sui. That's very negative on Sui.
Yeah, that was Mitch is in here. I saw your post about Sui with the funding for a squeeze.
I love it.
Yeah, and you'll have these anomalies and stuff. I mean, dude, look at Lido the other day. It bounced 20% off the lows. Like,
yeah,
that's another thing that, to me, like, if you look at the start of the year and the lows, and then if you look at the highs and like altcoins, some of them are coming down into like high time frame, like 61.8 fib retracements, like sweeping range lows and stuff. Heavy shorts. That's how you like. Look, they probably can continue to go down. Bearish market structure is very apparent with a lot of them, but like there's some crazy bounce opportunities. And if BTC does one of these things where it flushes and rips up, and so does ETH, like there'll be some pretty crazy situations similar to what Lido did the other day. Like heavy shorts on a lot of these things. I think the key to watch is are longs coming in at the bottom or are shorts coming in at the bottom. Same with BTC. Same thing you get when we're watching liquidity. Like same with like, are you seeing longs entering at 26.8 or whatever we go, or is it heavy shorts coming in? That's going to give you the fuel to go up. Typically,
that's a good point you mentioned. Yeah, so that's a good point you mentioned. When we look at all this liquidity stuff, guys, this is really all derivative positioning, and you have to keep in mind derivatives don't push the market one way or another. I mean, they can for a short period of time, but spot buyers are trendsetters. They actually send the trend to whatever direction they so choose. So when you have a very clearly defined range or not so clearly defined range, and you see these liquidity profiles and you see, longs coming in at the lows, but it's derivative longs, there's less likely of a chance for that support to hold than had you seen shorts come in at the lows. And the reason being is pretty simple, right? Derivatives traders are by nature just poor individuals who need to, use leverage to kind of achieve their goals. So when you see shorters coming in at the range lows, selling into support, and if there's not a spot seller behind that pushing price below support, the likelihood that those derivative sellers are going to puke and unwind their positions becomes very high. So for those of you who trade order flow, you can probably read the tape and see that in between spot and derivatives or perps. But point being is, if you're just looking at liquidity profile the way we do, it would kind of behoove you to kind of reassess in real time as we get to certain levels, whether it's support, resistance, and identify, are the red circles coming in at support, and are they getting rewarded? Is price doing a good job of going lower after they opened up? If the answer is no, that failed bearish breakdown provides an opportunistic bullish setup. So just one thing to keep in mind as we kind of move into tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, look, short came in, squeeze. Short came in, squeeze. Longs came in, ran them. Short came in, like,
yep.
So
it's ping pong within a range, and it's a low time frame range, but it works, right?
Yeah, very low time. I mean, good luck trading this, but yeah, I mean, it's just also just like an example of like how the players are getting
positioning and
getting
yep, exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, if you're coming down here and you're seeing a lot of red, and this is pushing up to, I don't know, maybe that, and this short number is going up while longs are going down because they're not adding.
Yep.
That's the recipe that we typically look for reversals. So
exactly. All right, should we pivot to some altcoins, guys? Feel free to drop any alt tickers in the chat. We will take a look at the liquidity profile, see if we can look at a setup going into tomorrow. But I will stress that, as CPI is about, 14, 15 hours away, if I'm taking any trades tonight, I'm out of them before I go to sleep. I want to be mostly flat going into CPI just because the likelihood for your setup to just get, swept and ran is pretty high. So I think you can have a bias going into CPI and then kind of pick your favorite tickers. And then once you see that setup come out, like we talked about, the sweep of the Monday low on BTC and ETH and the reclaim, that's when you get into your bullish alt setups, or bearish if you're leaning that way.
We'll go over some of the ones that I had been posting in the Tools in the Trade Telegram, which had some small squeezes, but then like it was noticeable that longs came in, right? Like, yep. But like,
what are we looking at, APT?
Yeah, so maybe pull up the chart on that.
Yeah.
263 shorts to 68 longs. Like, we were playing kind of this zone, and now we're drifting up. But here you have a long at 826. But your next real gap up to liquidity needs to hit 840, and 862 is your like near-term resistance, right? But if you're in the camp where they're going to flush it first, then and there's 154 million in shorts, like, are you going to take these lows out like here and maybe come into this $8 range? Yeah. That would be like a short trap, right? And again, if people are shorting this and you're seeing this increase and short liquidations increase where longs aren't coming in, that's like the type of stuff that you want to see for it to really like do a crazy move up. Like this right now is not anything I want to be involved in, given that my stance on BTC and ETH is that you're
we go lower before we go higher.
Pockets right now, and it's a coin flip on where price could go. I don't have like a high conviction where it could squeeze up or down, so I'll wait. And I'm sure.
Yeah. So looking at APT real quick on the chart side of things, the things you just showed, right? So I feel like this is going to be a common trend throughout the stream, right? So Monday open, 9.2, Monday high, 9.3, Monday low, 8.06, right? So, Trip was just saying, you're going to come down and flush this low. Are you going to, that's kind of a pretty decent setup, is if you sweep the Monday low and then you reclaim it. And it could be as simple as that. You wait for a sweep, you wait for the reclaim. And once you see the reclaim, you get in with a stop below the sweep. And then you're playing for higher targets. Trip mentioned 8.60s. And then, if we really start a trending move, like we potentially can see on BTC and ETH, you have your Monday open and your weekly open and your Monday highs, higher targets. So going forward, guys, on most of these setups, I feel like it's going to be very similar, as we're going to see a lot of these untouched Monday lows that provide opportunistic bullish setups if prices come down, sweep those lows and reclaim. So that's kind of going to be the trigger for these alts going forward. But yeah, let's continue.
Yeah, that whole Monday strategy has been like crazy good.
Just free money. Completely free money.
I've never realized it, but it's been so clean, like around all that. So like ARB, for example, here, like, liquidity is closer to the downside, right?
Yep.
There's 560 million in shorts. That seems like a lot.
On our, yeah, that does seem like a lot.
Like here was the peak was what? I don't. Okay, 750. Again, so I don't know. Maybe draw a trend line here. It breaks, like, if you start tapping this 381 shorts to 82 longs. Like, again, this is if you think BTC and ETH do that flush. Like, chances are this is going to flush, and maybe you get 104. I mean,
Yep.
I guess it come down to 1. Let's just try to turn some of the clarity off. Pull up a chart of that, like a higher time frame, just to see, like, I guess from the Binance chart, like where it stacks up, if there's any like support resistance. This would
So
really
yeah,
do it.
we're kind of below the listing price or the general trading range from when we listed.
Yeah,
And have just been trading below it. So there's not like a ton of support one way or another. So I think
right.
again, like you mentioned, looking at the positioning is probably going to make the most sense. You know, just kind of mapping out again setups again. So you have the Monday low. Let's say you sweep the Monday low, you reclaim it. You can have a stop trigger literally above the reclaim price, and then you set your stop wherever it ends up going. Let's say it's about it bounces off $1. You put your stop below, and then you're trading again to like this breakdown area, or even as higher to the Monday high weekly open. So a lot of these setups are like very similar. And it's really going to come down to what's the more bullish asset, and that's going to be based on your alt BTC pairs. I think it's going to behoove you to kind of look at those and take a gander at what's kind of showing some strength against Bitcoin on this move down, but also on the recovery side of things, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, arb at a 99 cents or $1, you're gonna hit some exhaustion points. So, like, that's a level that I looked at, because I mean, look, it went there first. Or no, that was OP. Yeah, it went.
That
It
was OP,
went.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it did go to $1. So arb, yeah, okay, we can start taking some requests. I think someone wanted to
We
look
have
at OP.
Sui on there, yeah, but look at OP. I
Sui is
don't think
not.
Sui's not on there, right? Yeah.
No, we need that on there.
Yep. You pull up OP. Where's OP?
So OP is really interesting to me because the higher time frame on this is I'll let's just look at the actual chart here. I mean, look at this. This is, you've come into like a pretty key. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
You've come into a pretty key level. Like, I don't even care what it does, but like, this is like a demand zone here that we
Yep.
haven't really touched. So like, does it come down here, like, or does it take this wick, or
Sweep below, yeah.
yeah? I mean, is this the real support down here, $1.42? I don't know, but like, this is a really interesting area. And then when you look at like the actual liquidity on OP, you can see that there's a fair amount of people off sides. But again, you come down and take, come into the 160s again. I don't know. You kind of have to watch it, but there's 155 million in shorts. This is pretty favorable for a squeeze, given this ratio. Should have Anita here to look at some of the histogram stuff, but I mean, there's a lot of topside stuff here that I think the monthly open on OP is like 202 or something like that.
It is 216.
Oh no, 216. Lito's 202. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So
just looking at this from a chart perspective, again, like it's gonna be a very similar setup. I really think going into tomorrow, I'll probably set alerts below the Monday low for a lot of these alts. Wait for price to develop, see how it reacts below the Monday low as it's just dropping off. Whereas a quick reclaim, if I see that reclaim, I'm setting my stop below the sweep. And again, I'm targeting weekly open, Monday high. That's kind of the best way to approach it going into tomorrow. Because I think, as we've kind of discussed, our bias is, whether we chop around going into tomorrow, we're probably at some point going to sweep the Monday low. And depending on the reaction there, we'll probably have some good offsides players on the down from the short positioning that's going to get squeezed higher, assuming, a expected or slightly soft print.
Yeah, it might have already local bottomed. Ask VM. Look, these things could have, but it's really your view on
What BTC and ETH is going to do going into tomorrow, right? So like your perfectly bottomed alt setup will look great today, and then going into CPI, we get some sort of volatility that just kind of wipes out your stop, sweeps that Monday low we discussed, and then continues higher.
Asia will pump and Monday low will be left for next week. Maybe.
Maybe.
If you have a crystal ball, let me know. Like this market is so confusing. Just pick a plan. All right, so Adam, we can look at Adam, and I think there was like Joe, LTC, Matic. I'll pull up Adam. Oh, Adam.
Adam was a fun one.
Look at
I think
this.
I fumbled my top shirt on that one, but neither
You
here
want to
nor
talk
there.
about tumbling? You want to talk about fumbling a short? We shorted Woo, and I was like, I'm gonna close it here just because like things could have squeezed. That coin has done the most ridiculous things. I think closed it like just under 28. It's like 22. It has continued to drop like a stone,
Yep.
but you made money. So, but it's like that's why.
But you could have made more.
Yeah, a lot more. But oh Jesus, Adam.
Yeah, this looks actually like one of the better setups.
So this is why I'm not like incredibly bearish, is because almost every
not
time
at these prices.
when these deltas look like this on BTC, ETH, every altcoin, it's like, sell green, get interested, buy red.
Yep.
Can it come down to tag this stuff and really, really trap some more? I guess sure, but like this is
10-1, yeah.
Yeah, I mean there haven't
What's
been
that
any
top
long.
lick at like 10-8?
This
Left. Is that purple one that's untouched? Slightly more left. Yeah, it like sticks out
this?
on. Yeah. What's that? 10-8?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
Monday's high. You'd run it or something.
So just looking at it from a high time frame, Adam has obviously just bled down, but this is a pretty key just support level. We've kind of touched once, twice, now the third time. I don't expect the third tap to break. That's usually kind of confirmation of support. So if we zoom in, so I think we're all in agreement. This is our support. And when you kind of look at things from that perspective, we are already swept the Monday low. So I'm not necessarily bullish at this price right now, but your Monday, where is it? Right there. Your weekly open and your weekly high are up here. So I think I'd either wait for a flush of those licks like Trip just showed, or just a reclaim of the Monday low to get long towards weekly open, Monday high. So that's actually probably one of the better setups I've seen just based on from a chart perspective, and the liquidity kind of shows us that we're pretty net short across the board. What is that? 645 to 48. Yeah, it's like a 12-1. That's setting up ripe for a squeeze as well.
I could see you get the 100x. Maybe don't go all the way down, but
10-2.
Again, like if there's no longs coming in and people short this, then here's your exhaustion point and
exactly
quick reversals. ARN render does not have liquidity, unfortunately, so we can't look at it. What was Matic?
Matic or SXP? I think SXP might. I'm not 100% sure.
I was looking at that the other day.
It does, yeah.
It's a hilarious chart because it's just straight downtrend. But it's always got a lot of shorts. We'll look at Matic. I know someone wanted to look at Joe. I'll look at Joe. I was looking at that the other day. Doing some scanning. All right, let's see here. Matic. Oh, Jesus. I mean, 284 million. You got this is like the story of a lot of these altcoins.
Right.
Like,
yep.
This is not incredibly bearish to me. I'm sorry.
I mean, the chart looks bearish, but it could just be at support.
This is bearish. Yeah. Bearish market structure. Yeah. But like, I guess when you're kind of looking at this and, what was the notional amount here? 92, 161, 267. You'll be pushing 300 if it comes down here. Then it's like, these are actually like crazy delta reversal like setups. I don't know how far it's going to go, But if BTC and ETH decide to go on like a crazy run to whether it's 28.6 or 29, where we had talked about that range high, this stuff's going to clean up. And again, it gets you back to $1, but I mean, off 84 cents, that's a pretty sizable move. All right, what was the next one? Have you looked at Matic's chart?
Yeah, it's not that interesting just because it's just like a straight downtrend. I could argue this is some sort of like SR flip, but not really. It's kind of in no man's land. What's the yearly open? All the way down to 77 cents. From the chart perspective, it's not that interesting. It's just been straight downtrend until we have a break in market structure. I'm not too bullish on this just because this one has been hit the hardest. I remember looking at the BTC pair; it was pretty god awful. But again, if we reclaim resist Monday low, looks like we're kind of below it. I think the first place I'd be entertaining longs is if we get a clean reclaim above the Monday low and then come back maybe during CPI and bounce off it. Maybe there's a setup there with the stop somewhere below there. But I think there's higher probability setups elsewhere.
Yeah, this is Litecoin. Someone wanted to look at this. Yeah, there are a lot of shorts, 229, but like there's also a lot of longs here. This is kind of a scary uptrend that like can just go boom and take out all of these. Maybe it came down here 70, 75, somewhere around here.
Yeah, that market structure just looks like a McDonald's sign.
But all of these alts are doing the same thing. Like
I think Litecoin's worse off position wise, just because from the structure point of view, it made a lower high, didn't make a higher high when BTC made that 30K move. And now it's coming into some support, but this is as clear an M as possible.
Right, but if it goes here, where do you trade it to? Like 80?
Yeah.
Like this is resistance. This is resistance. It's all like a pretty clear theme here. So when you're playing these alts, you're just playing for like squeezes.
Yeah, you're playing for scalps, and you really want to be looking at what's going to have the highest beta to Bitcoin and ETH.
Yes, and then that's going to come from looking at your ETH BTC pairs. What was some of the other ones that people want to look at?
SXP or STX.
I don't think STX is on there. I know that one. That one has been like unusually strong, like on random days. Is that Stacks?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't even know what it does, but oh Jesus, yeah. So this is my point on this one. Is it always seems to look like this, and then it's like, oh, can it go down more? And I guess when you see people stop trying to long it, like these looked like all longs in here. Here's a short at the bottom, but like 43. I haven't looked at a chart on this. I mean,
I'm going to show you a chart trip and you're going to laugh.
I looked at it the other day. It's literally just like...
You know what this is? This is like the 2019 Burj Khalifa meme where you have your point of origin, your pump, and then you're just consistent bleed. And I bet you if we come back next month, price, if not sooner, we'll come back to this point of origin, 28 cents breakdown level. And that's probably where you actually get a decent size move back up, maybe to mid-range or whatever the case is. But yeah, SXP looks a little fried. It had a parabolic move. Parabola broke. Parabolas tend to retrace 80%, and that puts you around, this 30-cent level. So yeah, I'd be a little more patient on SXP. I feel like there's better opportunities out there.
Yeah, just because it has a crazy red dot. I mean, it's context too. Like it's below like a huge support zone that was a candle that looked like it should be it. But STX doesn't have liquidity, nor does Woo, which is why it's always an interesting one to trade. What was the next one someone want to look at?
We have Doge, Sol. What else? I think
Doge.
Joe.
That one's crazy. That thing hit 70 cents and just straight down. There was such a clear level on the weekly too. I had spot Joe coins. This is Doge. Yeah, it's kind of a toss-up. I mean, what is this? 309 million in shorts.
See, Doge is very mimetic, and it needs some sort of narrative, whether it's, Elon changing the Twitter symbol or something similar. It needs a good pump narrative. Otherwise, it's usually in down-only chop mode.
like, look at how eager people are to long this.
Well, that's why, right? Exactly. So it usually just chops them out. Like unless you catch the bottom on it, you really just have a tough time positioning.
Right. So here's all the vulnerable positions and these longs. So 7 cents, I don't know, somewhere around here. Like, but it's not that interesting to me because look, boom, boom, then what? You come back up here, goes lower. At some point, though, you will hit these crazy support levels where this will get cleaned up somehow. It might not be for a very long time, but Doge isn't that attractive, really, to me.
Yeah, someone asked about Pepe, and I know we don't have Pepe liquidity, but I want to take a sec just because I unfortunately was away last weekend to short the top of this piece of shit. But Pepe is an interest. It has a lot of eyes on it, so even though it's probably dead on arrival, there's probably a decent opportunistic setup. So again, this is our Monday low, and I would kind of like to see that same thing we talked about: sweep of the Monday low, reclaim. Just the reason why I like this for a scalp back up is just because the volatility, right? Like, I don't know if we're going to get a 70% move off this, but it's definitely possible. And the fact that it has such volatility makes it good for trading. So Pepe is definitely one I want to be setting alerts for below 154. And then if we trade below there and reclaim, that's probably somewhere I want to get long with the stop below that low.
Yeah, this is Sol. I mean, you're building shorts again, just like every other coin, and it looks the exact same. So it's like you got people trying to short it at the bottom here. I don't know. Pick a direction on BTC and ETH. If BTC and ETH go down, then here's your interesting liquidity, where people probably get off sides. If it goes up, I don't know. Maybe it grabs 22s or something. Like,
Yeah, I can see Sol nuking actually a little more than everything else, just because from a chart perspective, these are some like equal lows that could use some sweeping below 1950, like this whole area here. So it wouldn't surprise me to get some sort of bigger nuke before you reclaimed and went higher. But yeah, Sol's not the clearest to me from that perspective. I think it's just been a giant distributive range, or not even distributed. It could just be reaccumulation. But point being is it's really just range bound along with everything else. So I think that kind of takes us kind of like to wrap things up, Trip, just to talk about CPI and just like the way to anticipate or not anticipate, I should say, and react to things, right? So you have your thought process and your bias going into CPI print tomorrow. You have your coins picked out. Maybe it's Pepe, maybe it's Atom, maybe it's something else we looked at today. And then you wait, right? And I think this is the biggest difficulty for newer traders is saying, okay, I know I want to buy this coin. I know this, volatility driven event is going to be at X time, and I'm waiting for it. And then, the event comes and all of a sudden nothing happens for a couple minutes. So you enter long or enter short, and then all of a sudden then the volatility comes and stops you out. So I think the key going to tomorrow is waiting to see the levels that you want to get swept or, attacked, and then seeing the reaction based off that. Because as traders, we are paid to execute and react to information as it comes. To anticipate, a sweep of the Monday low or a break above, whatever the case is really just, a form of gambling without any edge because you weren't patient with your system and your plan. So if you have your plan, wait for your trigger to kind of happen and then execute on that. Don't preemptively trade a level without the level actually being tested or bounced off of. Any other thoughts there, Trip?
FOMC, we had a plan and we talked about like 2 giant liquidity pockets, and they didn't get hit for days later.
Yep. But then they did, right? And it was like if you waited for that, you would have been fine. If you took trades in between, you got chopped up.
I actually longed everything into the print just because we had it was showing like some favorable setup. So some of the altcoins, BTC, ETH, but they didn't go as high as everyone anticipated. They eventually did over the weekend. And then, so, are we going to get those areas of interest for CPI tomorrow? I have no idea, but I'll be watching.
All we can do is map it out and then wait to see what happens, really.
Yeah. So, yeah, we looked at some altcoins. I mean, we can put some in the tools of the Telegram chat. I'll put some liquidity charts on the stuff that we didn't get to go over on stream so you guys can see it. But we'll be updating everything in there. If you're not in that Telegram, it's Zorn
in the description.
A lot more. But I've been posting more setups than I do on Twitter and more kind of liquidity profiles and landscapes, just keep you guys in the loop. Helps us to stay organized as traders as well too. So yeah.
So guys, be prepared for tomorrow, create your plans, wait for them, and then execute when you see them. That's kind of the best advice going forward, not financial advice. But with that said, it's been an awesome stream, guys, and we'll catch you next week. Captain Cole signing out.
Peace.